our virtual student can follow as well. I think that some of you in the room have not, do not have you on the register. So I have a few blank forms here. So if I do not have you in my register, then I need to get you. So I will hand out some forms here. Um, Before you leave at the end of the class, let me just put this off until the end of the class. This is the syllabus agreement that you need to sign. So let's just get into the business. So there's a form there that I've handed each of you that has a reading schedule on it. You have that. It's a complex little document that has a program on it. Do you see that? You see that? Okay, so the majority of you, there's only one exception to this because he's already done this class. This is the book that I would like for you to read and summarize during the semester. Now, the schedule that I gave you is just a guideline to help you stay abreast with the work, the reading of the book. Now, I did send most of you an email, all those that I had the contact information for. I've already sent you an email about getting the book because it's going out of print. It's also available in Kindle. I have 5 copies here that I will sell for you for a good price, $12, if you cannot find the book online. This is really a good book. I've had my students read and study it for the last 7 semesters. I always get good reports. And on the document, there's an approximate date by which I recommend that you finish the reading of that chapter. And then there's a column that has 2 numbers in 250 or 330 or something like that. That's the number of words that I recommend that you need to summarize each chapter separately. Okay, there's some other information on that sheet, and that sheet will also be posted in the portal. If you lose yours, then you can find it on the portal again. That helps you to say not too little or too much about the chapter. I've had people that almost rewrite the book for me. They were so extensive. And then others who just summarize the chapter in 3 lines. That's not good either. It's really a good book, a very insightful book. It's not an academic book. It's easy to read and understand, even people who do not speak English as a first language. And by the way, English is not my first language either, so I can sympathize with you. So that's the ideal. And then there's a specific format in which I need you to complete the reading, the summary. It's also on that document. It must be a MS Word document. If you use something else, then please find a way that you can transfer your document, converted the document to a Microsoft Word format. And there's also a format in which I want you to save the file. It's your ID number, your last name, and then part 1 or part 2. So if you stay abreast, you will enjoy the reading, you will enjoy the summary, and get a good grade. It counts for 40% of your term grade. So it's an important part. If you do not do this well, you might not make the grade. If you have problems because English is not your first language, please come and talk with me. This class is about communication. I need you to communicate with me, all right? If you run into any kind of issues, if you have any kind of issues, please communicate with me about that. I believe that you will enjoy the book and you will have a greater appreciation for the Bible as a result of reading this book. If you prefer to read it in Kindle, or that's the only way that you can do that, then the chapter division on that sheet will also help you to pace yourself as you go and read through the book. Now, I can guarantee you, if you spend 5 minutes here and there, or 10 minutes here and there to read the book, you will get through the reading of it easily. When I was in Bible school in South Africa, I used to arrive at the school about 10 minutes before classes start, and I would go to the library and pull a book from the shelf and read for 10 minutes and put it back on the shelf. Come back during the break, read for another 10 minutes. And then after school was out, when I waited for transportation, I read another 5 or 7 minutes. And in that way, I read 3 books every semester. So don't disdain those 10 or 5 minutes that you have time. Utilize that because it'll help you go through the book at a good pace. And then summarize it. And it depends on yourself how you want to do it, whether you want to just repeat what you have read or whether you want to interact with the book and say, I read this in the book and now I understand why this is happening in my life, why I had conflict with somebody. You can write it in either style, and you can even mix it. I just want to know that you got the gist of what the book is teaching, how in the Bible people had to interact with different cultural settings and how they did that. It can be very helpful for you to do that. Okay, any questions about that so far? No questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, it says up here, the chapters and words between 100 and 300, but then down here it says 25 and 40. So what do you want? Is that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, those numbers that I have, 25 or 330, is based on the minimum of 25 per page and a maximum on 40 words per page, just rounded up. So if there are 7 pages instead of 175 as the guideline for the minimum number of words, I will just round it up to 180 or maybe even to 200. Does that help? So the number that says 250 or 330, each of those numbers in those columns have to do with the number of pages for that chapter. So shorter chapters have less words, and the guideline that I give you are also less days in between the suggested time that you finish it. If it's a long chapter, then the number of words increase, and the number of days that I suggest you use for that increases as well. I think it's a fairly reasonable standard that I've given you. When I first had the students summarize it, I insisted on 50 words per page. And then some of them came back and said, well, that's maybe a little too much, And then I decreased it to 40 words. And then eventually I realized, because I read, and I will read your report, make no mistake, I will read your report. When I realized that 25 words, if you select your words well, you can summarize a page in 25 words. So that's why I made that the minimum. Now, I'm not going to count the words and say, oh, you missed it. You made 24 words per page, or you made 42 words per page. That's just a guideline. But please don't make it 200 words per page. I don't want to reread the book. All right. Any questions about that? Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. So when you have words and it says 120/300, that means for that, you're wanting 120 words to 300 words?
Yeah, anything between 120 and 300 words. Because that first chapter has 5 pages, instead of multiplying 25 by 5, like 125, I just rounded down to 120. And then the maximum is 300, it should really be 200 for 5 pages. So the number of pages times 25 or times 40 gives you the total that you need, the average number of words that you need to put into each book. Does everybody understand that?
So as long as per chapter, we have between 120 and 300 for that one, each one it's between that and that.
That's right.
I wanna see per
That's
chapter.
right.
Okay.
And most word processors will give you the number of words at the bottom of the page. So you don't have to sit there and count the words, Computer does that for you. I understand that some of you use Google Docs and you use Apple and all kinds of other word processors. But for me, please submit the paper in MS Word format. That just makes it so much easier to have conformity. And I promise you, I do read those reports. And I can promise you, you can't fool me. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
So the first part of the paper is for the 18 chapters, and then the
That's
second part is just for until 24.
Yeah. However, that's the summary. You only have to summarize up to chapter 24. But I do want you to read, because the semester has been shortened. I do want you to read the entire book, except the last few chapters you do not have to summarize. So by November 10th, when you submit the second part, there still are 12 chapters to read, and you have ample time to read those chapters until the semester is over. Okay, is that clear? Okay. If you have any questions at any point about this, please come and see me, talk to me about it. I typically stay a few minutes after class is over, and my office is in headquarters. I will explain to you where that office is. You're always welcome to come talk to me in my office. Communicate by text, communicate by email, come talk to me. Even if you want to say to me, hey, this class really sucks. I'm open to your opinion. I'm open to suggestions how I can do it better, okay? I'm not perfect. It was hard to realize it, but I'm not perfect. One time I went on an outreach. I took an outreach team from here to Mozambique, and one of the students came to me and she said, I found the right song for you. Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way.
Wow.
That's what she thought of me. Maybe not humble enough, or I am perfect. I don't know which one. Okay. I do like interaction from the class. The challenge this time is if you ask a question, I need you to come to the front and face the computer so that it can be recorded for the sake of the students that are virtual students. Okay, and then I will try as best as I can to answer that question. If I think the question is irrelevant, or if I think it needs more time to be explained, I would be very happy to spend time after class with you to go over that thing. Don't ask me, where did Seth get a wife? Because that's got nothing to do with the class, okay? How many years did it take Noah to build the ark? I don't know. I think I know, but I don't know. But it's got nothing to do with the class. However, I would like to engage with you in meaningful conversation, even if it's not about the class, outside of the class hours. Okay. Who here is not from the United States? Mexico or Brazil?
Portugal.
Portugal. Well, good. Brazil.
Congo.
Congo. Wonderful. Finland. Brazil. Mexico City. Mexico City. Do you know Aran?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Cameroon. So you speak French then, right? Okay. Where are you from? Nigeria? Nigeria. Okay. Yes, sir. Nigeria as well. So we have a good representation. Spain. Pablo from Spain. Bienvenido. That's the language that I speak half, is Spanish. Okay. I try hard to learn to speak Spanish, but I don't always succeed. Okay. My personal preference is not to be called pastor. If you want to call me by a title, you can use Nikki, Mr. Nikki, or professor or teacher, but don't call me pastor. I'm not a pastor. I'm ordained. I have a pastoral heart, but I'm here. I'm not serving as a pastor. Okay. I have a difficult last name, especially English-speaking people have a hard name to pronounce my name, Geldenhuys. So I just go by Geldenhuys. But if you just stick with Nikki, that's fine by me. Okay. I know that most of you come from cultures where you respect older people. And if you want to show respect by calling me Mr., that's fine. I will accept that. If you wanted to know, or in case you're guessing, I'm 65 years old. And I'm quite happy to be 65 years old. Thank God that I'm in good health. I'm in good strength. I'm an adventurer. I am a little crazy. I'm also a very emotional person. I can tell you, you will see me cry. Sometime during this class, you will see me cry. I'm not embarrassed by that. There's a reason why I cry. When I think of people while I'm speaking going to hell because they never heard the message of Jesus, that just breaks my heart. There are people who have heard the gospel, but in the way that is presented, they could not receive it into their hearts. That makes me cry. And that's the chief reason why I teach this class, is to help all of you to communicate well, and especially to communicate the gospel to people from different cultures. Okay, any questions so far? No questions, no comment. Sometimes I will put you on the spot by asking, just pointing at somebody and say, what do you think of this? Be aware that I will do that. I'm warning you up ahead of time. And if you do not have an opinion about that topic, I will help you form an opinion, because you should have an opinion. You cannot just float through life unopinionated. And if your opinion differs from mine, I'm fine with that. I'm not asking you to become like I am. I'm not trying to force you into a mold so that when you walk out here, you dress the same and you look the same and you talk the same. No, please don't do that to me. But I do want you to have the freedom to say to me, I disagree with you, and this is the reason I disagree with you. I had one student here some years ago, and I stood in front of a class and I said, there's an election coming up, and if you're an American citizen, I tell you, you must vote. And she said, don't tell me what I must do. Okay, at least she was outspoken about it. She didn't hide it in her heart. Okay, so each one of you should have a copy of the syllabus. Do you have the copy of the syllabus? He does not have it. 2 pages. I need you to read that syllabus. It also is in the portal. I need you to read that syllabus, and on Tuesday, return the form where you have signed it. I need to have that form on record and submit it to the academic dean's office. That's an agreement. That syllabus holds me accountable to you. What I state in that syllabus, I must perform. I owe that to you because you're paying money to be in this class, and I owe it to the institute who has given me the privilege of teaching this class. And I owe it to God to do what I've promised you to do. Now, there will be a little bit of changes. That's not a cast in stone document. For instance, I said the first 2 classes, Tuesday and next Thursday, I will spend on the biblical mandate for missions. What I will do instead, I will start each class by looking at some scriptures that talk about missions. Talking about missions, I believe that every believer must be involved in missions. I'm absolutely adamant about that, especially if you have received the Holy Spirit. We were given the Holy Spirit to be witnesses of Jesus Christ to the ends of the earth. That said, I do not think that every one of you should be a missionary. I want to make that clear. If that is the idea that you get from me speaking to you during this class, that's not what I mean. Because not everybody is called to be a missionary. It's only the crazy people that are called to be missionaries. I've met some of them. I'm telling you, some of them are really interesting people. And quite frankly, some of them will not fit well in the society. They need to be on the cutting edge. But I believe every one of you must be involved in missions in some way. If you go to be a counselor, have a missions heart. If you're going to be a youth pastor, have a missions heart. If you're going into the marketplace, have a missions heart. And that's what I'm going to transfer to you and impart to you during this class, secondary to the skills of cross-cultural communication. Because ideally, this class should be called Communicating Christ Cross-Culturally. However, not all our communication is about Jesus. When you go to the marketplace and you or in a store and you interact with people from a different culture, it's important that you display the character of Christ in your activities and your actions. Okay, when you stand in line and the guy behind you is standing way too close for your liking, you can step aside and let him step forward, and then you can keep your distance. Now, even in the time of social distancing, people from, and we'll talk about that a lot, from warm cultures, they like to stand closer to people than people from cold cultures. Thiago, come here, please.
Oh, sorry.
This one, yeah, this one. Okay. Catherine, come over here, please. How do you feel if I stand like this to you? Are you comfortable?
I'm comfortable, yeah.
Okay.
No problem.
You've been in America too long. However, if I stand that close to Catherine, she will move away. That's just because most of us, thank you very much, you can sit down. Most of us in the United States, we like people to be at least arm's length away from us, because this is my space, right? Yeah. People from other cultures like it to be close. That's why, and my Nigerian brothers and sisters can testify with me, when you drive down the road in Africa and there are 3 people in your car and there are 3 people standing next to the road waving, flagging you down, trying to get a ride, and you tell them you don't have space, they don't believe you, they don't understand it. It's like that too in some South American countries, you know. I visited my friend Adam Bostic in Peru, and we got in a 15-seater van, and we sat way in the back where there's a long seat, and he was sitting on the one side, I was sitting on the other side, 15-seater Nissan. And then 2 more people came and sat in between us. And then one of them invited the child to come sit on a lap. So now we are 5 people on a 3-seater. And then another guy came in, and he wiggled himself in between me and the guy sitting next to me. Now we were 5 adults and 1 child on a 3-seater. And then some of the people literally stood on the floorboard outside the van, and that's how they call it the taxi ride, because they don't mind being close to one another. Okay. Now that's cultural things, and it can hinder the way that we relate to people if we don't take into consideration that they are different to us. Okay. Now, one of the first things that influences you when you look at a stranger of how you will relate to that person. Are you ready for this? Is the color of the skin. People, that's the reality. And I will talk a lot about that in the coming weeks. The darker the skin is, or the more different the skin is to your own, the more distance you will want to keep between you and that person. And it's not just white on black, it's black on white as well. It's just, that's part of how we are raised. Okay? And let me tell you up front, when I say something like this in class, it's not because I disdain that culture. I love cultures. I've come a long way about bumping my head and getting irritated and irritating people because of my misunderstanding of their preferences because of their culture. And I had to learn, and I still am learning, to look at people as people and not look at them because of some physical feature. Now, here's a secret about me. Two of the first things that I look at when I meet a person is I look at his teeth. And I'll tell you why in a moment. And if he's got sandals on or barefoot and I can see his toes, I look at his toes. The first reason is, in the era that I grew up in, you could tell a lot about a person's teeth. If the teeth were not even and some teeth were missing, you can clearly or very accurately tell that that person had a hard childhood. A hard childhood, a difficult childhood. There's something in the physique of people that reflects the way that they were raised. And the second thing, I look at people's toes. I used to run long distance in my younger years, up to 42 kilometers, 26 miles marathons. And I look at people's feet and decide whether they have feet to run marathons or not, whether they are athletes or not. Okay? That's just two of my quirks. And then I went to Japan, and I realized that almost all the people in Japan have really bad teeth. And it's not because they had bad childhoods. The culture in Japan thinks that crooked teeth is sexy. And yeah, they do. Even in this time where orthodontists are available to straighten out your teeth and make them nice and white and even, many Japanese do the opposite thing. They go to the dentist to move their teeth around so the teeth are not perfect, because they do not want to create the image of having a perfect body. And if you don't believe me, I will send you links of articles that bear me out on that. So that's what I read. I cannot tell of a person's childhood just based on his teeth, especially if he's Japanese. Okay, and so there are many, many differences. I sat in an airport in Sao Paulo, and I looked at the people around me, and then I realized why it is possible for me to walk on campus and recognize Brazilians, because the women typically have a very similar hairstyle, and the glasses they wear look similar. Now that will be the same in Germany too. I just hadn't seen that in Germany. I wasn't there, for a while. And so the society that we grow up in ways that we do not always understand or realize, shape the way that we communicate with other people. And we will look at some of those in some more detail as we continue on in the class. So I want to encourage you to utilize this time to interact with people on this campus who are from a different culture than yourself and learn from them. Ask them questions. Why do you do what you have done? Why do you say what you have just said? What do you mean by that? I come from a British background, and so my humor is very sarcastic. And when I came to the United States, I quickly found out that Americans don't like sarcastic humor. I got in trouble many, many times because I thought I was funny, and they think I'm rude. Okay? That's just the reality. And then after a while, I started realizing that I'm beginning to think and do and have the humor that they do. And that to me is one of the best things that has happened to me is I become multicultural. And I hope that by the end of this semester, many more of you are willing to become multicultural. That's one of the reasons missionary children do so well in the academic world and in their social relationship, because they are multicultural. Okay, who here speaks more than 2 languages? How many do you speak? 3. 3. Do you speak Belgium?
French.
French, okay. 3. Which are the languages you speak? English, Portuguese,
Spanish.
and Spanish, okay? Which ones?
English and French.
Okay. Who else? Okay. Do you speak more than 1, more than 3, more than 2?
Yeah, at one time I spoke 8 languages, but I forgot about 3 of them because I haven't used.
Okay. Yeah. When you don't use it, it does get you can lose it, but you can pick it up quickly too. Okay. Now, for those of you who just speak 1 language, I really encourage you to learn another language, because it just widens your world infinitely. I cannot tell you how much it widens your world if you speak more than 1 language. I can read the Bible in 4 languages and understand it. And it brings me so much. I cannot speak 4 languages, but I can read the language in 4 languages, the Bible in 4 languages. It enriches my understanding of the Bible so much, and it helps me when I speak in a country where there's a different language spoken. It helps me to be more relevant to the people that I'm speaking to. For example, there's a verse in scripture that says, God gave them the desires of their heart, but sent leanness into their soul. I spoke about that in Romania, and I looked at my interpreter, and I could see he was struggling with something. And so we went on for a while to interpret what I had said. And then afterwards, I said to him, why did you struggle with that part of the interpretation? He said, because the Romanian Bible says, God thinned out their armies. Okay, that's different from sending leanness into their soul. And if we understand those differences in the nuances of different languages and different cultures, it will make us better communicators. So I want to encourage you, those who only speak English, I know that everyone here speaks English at minimally English. I do want to encourage you to learn another language. And if you do want to learn a language, my first language is Afrikaans, but please don't learn Afrikaans because it's not a relevant language. I love the language, but it's not relevant to the world. Learn French or Spanish or Russian or Mandarin, because they are culturally relevant languages in the world today. That's the trade languages of the world. That's the languages. Somebody said that if all the Christians go to heaven now, the most spoken language in heaven would be Spanish. And that's because of the Catholic Church in much of South and Central America. Okay, now not all Catholics are going to heaven, but neither are all Pentecostals going to heaven. Make no mistake about that. So I do want to encourage you to learn another language. And one of the reasons I'm so strong about that is because it widens your horizon. And the second thing is it makes you sensitive to the culture of which you are learning the language. I've had friends here from Mexico speaking Spanish to a Mexican from Chile, a Spanish-speaking person from Chile, and the Chile person said, "What did you just say?" Because the same word can be a positive word and a negative word in another language. Where I come from, we call traffic lights robots. When we talk about the robot, people say, "Where's the robot?" Okay? And then there are some words like hooter. What you call, in America, we call a horn. In my country, we call a hooter. And here you don't speak about that, right? And then there's gestures. This sign is a bad sign in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
It's not a good sign. But here it's a good sign. In rural northern Africa, where there's the population is 100% black, there are very few white people living there. this is a sign I want to be your friend. But for white people, it's a very crude sign. So we would drive down the road in our military vehicles, and people would be on their bicycles and give us the sign, and we were really upset for them giving us the sign. And so we have to be aware of gestures. That's why some of the key things that you can take away from this class already today. When you interact with people from a different culture, observe and ask questions before you make a judgment.
Yeah.
There are very good reasons why people do what they do or say what they say. I mentioned the story of the Japanese that went to the Alamo, and when the guy said, "You all come back now," they turned around, and people in many cultures will do exactly what they are told because that's their culture. In the American culture, the individualistic culture, people will say, "Don't you tell me what to do." All right? Americans, do you agree? See, here's my benefit. I've lived in America as an adult for longer than most of you were born here. So I have an advantage. I'm the real African American. People don't like it. Many people don't like it when I say that, but that's the truth, you know. Some years ago, Sandy and I were in Jamaica, and one of the people there realized that I don't have an American accent. So he asked me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Africa." And he said, "I'm also from Africa." And I said, "Really? Where were you born?" He said, "In Kingston." I said, "No, then you're Jamaican, brother." I'm the African, not you. Okay. So any questions at this point in time? So the way that we are going to take attendance, you no longer swipe. I know when you are let out from chapel, and you have 15 minutes from that time to get to the class. And then if you're 5 minutes beyond that, you are considered late. And if you're late more than a certain number of times, then you fail the class because of absence, more than 20% of the times, okay? So please hurry and get to the class. I will start on time, and I promise you I finish on time. I will not keep you here longer unless there's a really crucial point that I need to make at the end of my class. But typically, 99% of the time, I will finish on time. So here's how we are going to take attendance. Within the first 10 minutes of the class, I'm going to give you a key word. You have to then, within the next minute or so, get your phone out and text that word to my phone number. So I will have a date stamp and a time stamp on my phone of when you sent that keyword. Yes, sir. You don't have a cell phone?
I don't have service.
Don't have service?
Yeah. There's no service.
Okay, well, then you'll have to email me that word. All right? So for today, just email or text me to 214, get your phones out, or 663-9215. Text me your ID number. 214-663-9215.
What was the word?
Your ID number.
Oh, okay.
Text me your ID number. If you don't have that capability on your phone, make sure that you email it to me if you've been in the class today.
Do you want my message or WhatsApp?
Take your mask off.
You want like WhatsApp or like your message?
WhatsApp or text. Either is fine. I will have the stamp, and then at this point my time is over. Thank you very much. I will see you on Tuesday. I do want to hand out the syllabus agreement forms. Victor is here. Nami, about you. Nami is in front. Here you go.
I don't know servicing anymore. Yeah. There's no margin.
Yeah, use that email. Use the email that's on the syllabus. Okay, if you have this form, then you are the you go back to the other one. Just for this one. I'm gonna, you hear 100. Okay. You go by Samuel or by? Yago.
Man, I'm doing good.
Andrew. Lawrence.
Which year are you?
I said,
Yeah. In the sixth.
Again.
One has nothing. Not in 30. 30, either of these buildings.
7 years. Yago.
How far now?
Yeah.
How far now, my brother?
Yeah. I'm just.
You know, true.
I'm scared to hold this thing. Yeah, but you gotta get signed.
Today?
Next one.
Hey.
Let's go look first.
Hey. You will take me. You got me.
I'm good right after this.
All right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, man, that's it. Oh, man. Hey. Hey. Rando. Baba Rando.
Oh.
Hey, I like it on your
Just grab it
side.
along from the.
Back.
You really like it? You just like it?
Who's on this one?
That wall.
Thank you.
Oh, man.
Give me.
Dang, really, that Elwood, like.
Thank you.